Have you ever wondered why exceptional intelligence often breeds resentment rather than admiration? Why brilliant minds throughout history found themselves isolated, misunderstood, and sometimes even ostracized? Why does mediocrity seem to thrive while brilliance struggles to find its place? These timeless questions have puzzled philosophers, psychologists, and brilliant minds themselves for centuries, hinting at a deeper complexity in human nature that we're only beginning to understand. Consider this observation from Arthur Schopenhauer. There is nothing by which a man exasperates most people more than by displaying superior ability. This insight sets the stage for our exploration of one of humanity's most paradoxical tendencies, the rejection of intellectual excellence. The truth of this observation echoes through time, from the execution of Socrates to the modern-day ostracism of intellectual pioneers. You might think that in an age that celebrates innovation and progress, superior intelligence would be universally welcomed. But what if I told you that according to philosophers and psychologists, intelligence often acts as a social repellent, creating invisible barriers between individuals and groups? The evidence for this phenomenon appears not just in academic research, but in the daily experiences of highly intelligent individuals across cultures and contexts. Schopenhauer argued that unlike wealth or social status, which people can openly admire or envy, intelligence breeds a different kind of resentment, one that's more insidious because it can never be openly acknowledged. It's as if intelligence itself becomes an unwelcome mirror, reflecting back to others their own limitations and inadequacies. This mirror effect creates what modern psychologists term cognitive self-threat, a phenomenon where mere exposure to superior intelligence triggers deep-seated defensive mechanisms. But when does this dynamic become most apparent? Schopenhauer observed that it's most evident in those moments when superior intellect naturally manifests itself without any intention to diminish others. He termed this phenomenon intellectual isolation, a condition where the very qualities that make someone exceptional also make them unbearably threatening to others. Modern research has expanded on this concept, identifying what we now call intellectual alienation syndrome, a pattern of social disconnection that frequently accompanies high intelligence. To understand why society often shuns brilliance, we must first examine the complex psychology behind this reaction. Unlike material success, which can be attributed to luck or circumstance, intelligence presents an uncomfortable reality. It exposes inherent differences that can't be easily dismissed or explained away. This fundamental truth challenges our democratic ideals and our cherished belief in human equality. This creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, a mental discomfort that occurs when people encounter evidence that challenges their self-image. When confronted with superior intelligence, many experience a subconscious threat to their own sense of competence and worth. This threat triggers what researchers now identify as the intellectual defense cascade, a series of psychological reactions designed to protect the ego. The reaction to this threat typically manifests in three ways, each with its own subtle variations and psychological underpinnings. 1. Active avoidance. People will often physically or socially distance themselves from those they perceive as intellectually superior. This isn't usually a conscious decision, but rather an instinctive response to discomfort. Recent studies have shown that this avoidance behavior can manifest as early as elementary school, where highly intelligent children often face social isolation. The avoidance extends into digital spaces, where intellectual contributions are frequently overlooked or actively dismissed. 2. Devaluation. By dismissing or devaluing intelligence, people can protect their self-esteem. Book smarts aren't everything, they might say, or they're intelligent but lack common sense. This devaluation often takes sophisticated forms, such as the celebration of street smarts or emotional intelligence, as supposedly superior alternatives. Modern workplace culture frequently reinforces this devaluation through emphasis on culture fit over capability. 3. Hostile resentment. In some cases, the presence of superior intelligence triggers active hostility, manifesting as criticism, ridicule, or attempts to undermine the intelligent person's contributions. This hostility can take subtle forms, such as passive-aggressive behavior, or more overt forms, such as direct confrontation and social exclusion. Research has identified a phenomenon called intellectual aggression response, where exposure to superior intelligence triggers immediate hostile reactions. These reactions are further complicated by what psychologists term the intelligence visibility paradox, the fact that truly superior intelligence often manifests in ways that make it impossible to hide or disguise, leading to unavoidable social consequences. Here's where things get interesting. Society's reaction to intelligence stands in stark contrast to its response to other forms of excellence. Consider wealth, physical beauty, or social rank. While these qualities might provoke envy, they rarely trigger the same deep-seated resentment as intelligence. The reason for this distinction lies in what sociologists call the attainability factor. Why? Because these attributes offer something tangible for others to aspire to without directly challenging their self-worth. Wealth can be acquired, beauty can be enhanced, and rank can be achieved. But intelligence, it stands as an immutable reminder of natural limitations. This immutability creates what researchers call the fixed trait anxiety, a particular form of social stress triggered by encounters with characteristics that cannot be changed through effort alone. Perhaps the most telling aspect of this dynamic is society's embrace of mediocrity. As Schopenhauer noted, borrowing from Balthasar Gracian, to be well-liked, one must wear the skin of the simplest beast. This isn't just cynicism. It's an observation about human nature and group dynamics that modern social psychology continues to validate through research. Mediocrity thrives in social settings because it makes others feel comfortable and unthreatened, creating what sociologists call cognitive safety zones, creates a sense of belonging and shared experience, reinforcing group cohesion, doesn't challenge existing beliefs or capabilities, maintaining social homeostasis, reinforces the status quo, providing psychological stability. In contrast, exceptional intelligence disrupts social harmony by its mere presence, creating what researchers term cognitive dissonance ripples, creates uncomfortable awareness of limitations, triggering what psychologists call competency anxiety, challenges established patterns of thinking, threatening intellectual comfort zones, forces confrontation with inadequacies, leading to what researchers term capability reflection stress. Recent studies have identified what they call the mediocrity reinforcement cycle, a self-perpetuating system where average performance becomes not just accepted, but actively preferred and promoted. Interestingly, Schopenhauer's observations extend beyond pure intelligence to other forms of excellence. Particularly in his analysis of beauty, he noted that exceptionally beautiful women often face similar social isolation, particularly from other women. This parallel reveals something crucial about human nature. Excellence in any form can become a social liability when it triggers deep-seated insecurities. Modern research has expanded this understanding to identify what's now called the excellence isolation effect, a phenomenon where any form of exceptional ability can lead to social disconnection. This effect is particularly pronounced in cases where multiple forms of excellence intersect, such as with highly intelligent and attractive individuals. Gender plays a crucial role in how intellectual excellence is perceived and received. Studies have shown that highly intelligent women often face what researchers term double alienation, rejection both for their intelligence and for violating traditional gender expectations. This creates unique social challenges that require sophisticated navigation strategies. In our modern world, these dynamics have taken on new dimensions. Social media and digital communication have created what some scholars call intellectual echo chambers, spaces where mediocrity can be celebrated and intelligence vilified with unprecedented efficiency. The digital landscape has introduced several new phenomena that complicate the relationship between intelligence and social acceptance. Algorithm-driven content curation that tends to favor simple, accessible content over complex ideas. Social media metrics that reward quick, emotional responses over thoughtful analysis. Online communities that can quickly mobilize against perceived intellectual threats. Digital platforms that amplify both the celebration of mediocrity and the rejection of excellence. The rise of artificial intelligence has added another layer to this dynamic, creating what researchers call artificial natural intelligence tension, a complex interaction between human intelligence and machine capability that further complicates social attitudes toward intellectual excellence. Consider how complex ideas get reduced to oversimplified soundbites, creating what communication scholars call intellectual compression loss. Nuanced thinking is dismissed as overthinking, leading to what researchers term complexity aversion syndrome. Quick emotional responses are valued over careful analysis, creating a reactive reward cycle. Conformity is rewarded while intellectual diversity is punished, reinforcing what sociologists call digital homogenization. These digital dynamics create new challenges for intelligent individuals trying to navigate social spaces while maintaining intellectual integrity. History provides us with countless examples of brilliant minds who face social rejection during their lifetimes, only to be celebrated after death. From Socrates to Galileo, Tesla to Van Gogh, the pattern is clear. Society often needs the distance of time to appreciate revolutionary intelligence. This phenomenon extends beyond famous examples to countless unnamed brilliant individuals whose contributions were dismissed or suppressed by their contemporaries. This creates what historians call posthumous vindication syndrome, where genius is only recognized and celebrated once it no longer poses a direct threat to contemporary egos and established norms. Modern researchers have identified several key patterns in this historical dynamic. The prophet in their own land effect, where local communities are particularly resistant to acknowledging the brilliance of their members. The temporal safety buffer, where historical distance makes it safer to acknowledge intellectual superiority. The generational acceptance cycle, where revolutionary ideas typically require 1 to 2 generations to become mainstream. These patterns reveal deeper truths about how societies process and eventually integrate intellectual advances, often at a significant cost to the pioneers themselves. In professional settings, this dynamic often manifests as what organizational psychologists call competency backlash, where highly competent individuals face social and professional penalties for their abilities. This phenomenon has become increasingly documented in modern workplace studies, revealing complex patterns of institutional resistance to exceptional capability. Studies have shown that in many workplace environments, highly intelligent employees are often perceived as threatening by managers, leading to what researchers call supervisory suppression syndrome. Revolutionary ideas face stronger resistance than incremental improvements, creating an innovation gradient effect. Social skills often outweigh intellectual capability and advancement opportunities, establishing a sociability preference hierarchy. Brilliant individuals are frequently passed over for leadership roles in favor of more relatable candidates, demonstrating the comfort over competence principle. These patterns create what organizational psychologists term the excellence penalty, a systematic disadvantage faced by highly intelligent individuals in professional settings. So how do intellectually gifted individuals navigate this challenging social landscape? Research and observations suggest several sophisticated strategies, each with its own advantages and limitations. 1. Strategic self-presentation. Learning to present intelligence in ways that don't threaten others' self-image. This doesn't mean hiding one's abilities, but rather deploying them thoughtfully and selectively. Modern research has identified several successful approaches. The gradual revelation technique, slowly demonstrating capability over time. The collaborative intelligence approach, framing intellectual contributions as group achievements. The capability diffusion strategy, spreading demonstrations of intelligence across multiple contexts. 2. Social buffering, building relationships based on shared interests and experiences rather than intellectual exchange alone. This creates connections that can withstand the potential tensions created by intellectual differences. Key aspects include developing what psychologists call intelligence-neutral zones, social spaces where intellectual differences are temporarily suspended, creating cognitive bridge relationships, connections with individuals who can mediate between different intellectual levels, establishing social safety networks, relationships that provide emotional support during periods of intellectual isolation. 3. Finding appropriate outlets, identifying and creating spaces where intellectual excellence is truly valued and can be expressed without reservation. This involves seeking out what researchers call intelligence-positive environments, creating cognitive sanctuary spaces where intellectual expression is protected, building networks of what sociologists term intellectual allies. These strategies require what psychologists call social intelligence optimization, the careful balancing of intellectual expression with social acceptance. The societal rejection of intelligence has broader implications for human progress that extend far beyond individual experiences. This dynamic creates what researchers call innovation suppression cycles, patterns where potential advances are delayed or prevented due to social resistance to intellectual excellence. This raises crucial questions. How many potential solutions to humanity's problems remain unexplored because their originators were socially ostracized? What innovations have we missed because brilliant minds were forced to conform to mediocrity? How can society balance the human need for social harmony with the necessity of intellectual progress? Modern researchers have identified what they call the progress paradox, the contradiction between society's stated desire for advancement and its systematic resistance to the very minds capable of creating that advancement. Understanding these dynamics is the first step toward changing them. While we can't eliminate the psychological responses that drive intelligence rejection, we can develop what researchers call cognitive integration frameworks, systematic approaches to bridging the gap between different intellectual levels. We can create safe spaces for intellectual excellence to flourish, establishing what sociologists term innovation sanctuaries, develop better systems for integrating diverse levels of intelligence in social and professional settings through cognitive diversity protocols, build bridges between different intellectual capabilities rather than allowing them to become barriers using capability integration techniques. These approaches require what researchers call social architecture innovation, the deliberate design of new social structures that can accommodate intellectual diversity. In the end, each of us faces a choice. Do we participate in the rejection of intelligence to maintain comfortable mediocrity? Or do we work to create a world where intellectual excellence can coexist with social harmony? This choice has profound implications for both individual development and societal progress.